Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Not Alone, this amazing project we just started this month. Not alone. What does that mean? No matter where you've been, no matter where you are, no matter where you're going, I want you to know, Dalton wants you to know that you are not alone. And this month, September, is Suicide Prevention Month. And not only this month, but we're going to continue to talk about suicide prevention, not only for this program, but all throughout this school year, because it's important. You're not alone. It's something we should be talking about. Like we always say, whatever is mentionable is manageable. And if we can start these conversations, I think we have a better chance to deal with the truth. And we want to deal with the truth because it's there about how important it is to discuss suicide and suicide prevention. Dalton, listen, man, I want to thank you. The first of this month, you shared your story about your cousin Spencer, and it touched a lot of people. The video got out. It was incredible. People are responding. I just want to say, man, first of all, thank you, but how's your month been since then?
It's been going pretty good. We've been doing a lot of cool stuff, and I'm proud to say that I think we're making a difference, and I just hope it gets bigger.
I mean, last week we went to the walk at Central Park, and Ashland was invited to. Mm-hmm. It was awesome to meet a lot of other people and other organizations that are involved in this movement. It was great to meet up with Veronica Nunley of Pathways and Alert Regional Prevention Center. She shared some of her story that was, her own son and what was going on there, and it was touching. But I remember one thing specifically, and we didn't even talk about this as we were planning on this show today, but I remember her talking about some signs. Mm-hmm. And because we were talking she's got this history of teaching prevention, suicide prevention, and substance abuse and whatnot, and she started talking about a few signs of some things to look out for, even if people... how does she say that if things were smooth, right? How does she say that? Remember?
No, I can't exactly remember, but...
It was kind of like we were trying to think about the tales. What are some of the signs? And she said, there's actually one of these signs where things are going bad, and then it's all smooth.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And we were like, whoa. Yeah. And she said, and that's maybe because they've gotten over the anxiety and they've already planned it out. And that to me struck me so hard because I'm thinking as a friend, hey, if we can talk through things and they think it's okay, woo, we've won.
Right.
Turns out, we've got to follow up, right?
Yeah, it's just like the calm before the storm. Like they've already come to terms with what they're going to do. And it moved me so much, and it was so crazy to me that happens that I made a post about it on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it definitely hit me hard.
Well, one of the big things that happened, later last week, and we got an email, and it was from the heart of a mother. Mm-hmm. And I think those are really kind of delicate, topics. And the mother said, hey, I'm kind of worried about my son. He's in 10th grade. I'm seeing some changes, and I want to know, are there signs? Mm-hmm. And I felt like, man, this whole thing's coming together. This is clicking. And so we went to a website where you can find, it's afsp.org, which is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm not going to act like I made all this, right? Like, why would I? No, I didn't invent this wheel. Mm-hmm. It was here, and they're professionals. And so what we want to do today is kind of talk you through some of these, and there's three of them. They're warning signs, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's three major warning signs, and there's some details about each of them. But the first one is warning talk, right? Warning talk. There's some things that maybe people are saying that maybe are an indication of where they are. And if you're worried about people, if you're worried about where they are, how they think about, or maybe even, do you think they're considering suicide or self-harm even? Yeah. Self-harm or harm to others, it's warning talk. And here's some of the things. Self-harm, feeling hopeless. Mm-hmm. We've heard that before, right? Yeah. Having no reason to live, that's a pretty big indication. Being a burden to others. You ever thought about that? Mm-hmm. Now I don't want to put even age brackets on this, but I think of some older people, right? I don't want to be a burden to anyone else, right? We've lost a grandparent recently, and the other grandparent was kind of, alone now. And I remember hearing these conversations of, I don't want to be a burden. And I just thought, it's a red flag. Feeling trapped. And then unlivable pain. And you know what? It's unique because a lot of these responses, a lot of these actions are in response to something. For example, stress and anxiety, COVID.
Yeah.
I think about a lot of adults who are dealing with the loss of jobs. A lot of people. I've actually have friends who lost their job who now can't pay for their apartment, and now they're thinking about eviction. So now this has gone from, hey, I've got a good job to, and things are going well, to, okay, well, now I don't have a job. Now I can't pay my rent. Now I'm gonna get kicked out. So I just went from great to homeless.
Yeah.
That's just difficult. And so, warning talk. Let me ask you this. This is simple. Kind of, if you think about it, how can we help warning talk? What's the one thing that we can do?
I think it's always good to obviously look for those signs, and once you recognize some of those signs and you see that they're exhibiting that behavior or they're talking like that, just to talk to them, just to get to know them a little bit, ask them, how's life going? What are your interests? You want to go hang out sometime and get something to eat? It's the little things. Just be their friend. And I think another thing I want to add to warning talk is, not all the time, but sometimes people make jokes about stuff that, like, the jokes actually lead into how they're actually feeling. So if you see someone making jokes about, like, oh, I'm going to kill myself, well, you might want to just talk to them a little bit, because that's not always a warning sign. Sometimes people are just making jokes. But other times I feel like they're kind of, like, trying to open up a line of communication to tell you that
asking for help in a way, yeah.
I'm actually hurting, and I want you to talk to me.
That's interesting. So one of the biggest tools we can use for that is listening, right? Just listen. I love another Fred Rogers saying, he said, it's impossible to not love somebody once you've heard their story.
Yep.
So let's get to know those stories, right? Let's listen for that. That's one of our biggest tools. So warning number 1, the way people talk. Warning number 2, behavior. Warning to behavior. And so let me give you some of these examples of behavior. Increased use of drugs and alcohol. Now, I truly hope this isn't at the student level, of course, but it can be. It can easily be that way. A lot of times, any age uses substances to numb or dull the pain of whatever. But if you see it, that's a warning sign. How about withdrawal from activities? You ever seen someone self-isolate? It seems like things are going great, everything's going well. Well, then they stop showing up. They stop coming around, and maybe they stop even responding, right? And so isolation that's a warning behavior. Isolation from even friends and family, not just group activities. It's just kind of like, hey, we're going to play kickball or whatever, or wiffle ball or baseball, and they don't show up. But I'm talking about Sunday after church, when we all get the families together, maybe we watch football. I'm so glad football's back.
Yeah.
I was kind of worried about that, but maybe they're not showing up. It's a weird behavior, but it's an indicator is sleep. Too much or too little, even both, like both extremes. And extremes on a lot of things is an indicator. But maybe they're sleeping all day. You ever had that friend? I mean, I remember going through depression myself, and I remember one day waking up at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I've never slept past 7 a.m. that I can recall, but I remember for a little week, in a specific time in my life, I woke up at 4 p.m. going, what? So sleep, aggression, maybe your defense mechanisms are kind of like, hey man, your hair looks silly today.
Yeah.
Whoa, like their aggression, or maybe just fatigue. Maybe they're just sitting around and just kind of, giving away treasured items. I read that one. I thought that's very unique. Calling to tell people goodbye. So behaviors, not just what you say. Like we said, there's warning talk, but there's also warning behaviors. And I know, again, you shared your story, and I remember just... when you were interviewed by Chad at WSAZ, you used this phrase, I wanted to tell people the things I wish someone would have told Spencer.
Yeah.
And I think, before we get to this third warning, I think the word that weighs heavy on a lot of us that are dealing with the tragedy is regret. You wonder what I could have said, what I could have done. How does that even play in your mind now? I mean, almost 5 years since.
Still, it's really easy to blame yourself because you're the only person you have control over. So you always think, well, I should have seen something. I should have known, he was my best friend. You know, I should have known that he was feeling like this. But, you know, sometimes there just isn't many warning signs, and I think it is important, even if it's just one of these warning signs, to pry in a little bit, to kind of just ask them, you know, how are you doing? You know, like hang out with them, whatever. But especially if it's more than one of these warning signs, you know, any of them, like if it's even talk and behavior, or like as we're about to get to mood, you know, if it's more than one especially, you have to, you know, even maybe suggest them to like go to therapy or go to a counselor or something if that's what you think they need at the time. You know, just whatever you think would be best for that person. It's better than just, you know, seeing it and being like, they'll be okay. Anything is better than that.
You just can't assume that, right? And so, again, warning sign was listening to the talk, but again, we have to listen. Warning sign for behavior is watch. You know, look, observe. Don't just over glance it, because like you said, I think in the perfect world, we're like, oh, that's, you know, that's an anomaly.
Right.
I love how you said it, pry in a little bit, dig a little bit more. And you know, I love when you said sometimes they're trying to make a joke to only see how you respond. Be slower to laugh. Be quicker to be like, hey, man, you all right?
Yeah.
Even if you're wrong.
Right.
I would rather us be wrong and assume something like, hey, man, you know, I know you said that. Are you really thinking that way? For them, like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. I would rather that happen and look like the fool than to be the one like, that was funny.
Yeah, it's better to have an awkward situation than a devastating one, especially. For definitely. Awkward.
Well, there's your Instagram quote. I like that one. All right, so let's move on to the third one, the final one that we're just going to talk about today, warning signs, mood. This is harder. This takes some time. This takes some investigating, actually. Takes some investment. And so warning signs of mood, depression. You can't just off the cuff look at somebody and be like, oh, they're depressed. It takes time, right? Well, this thing called friendship takes time. Anxiety. Maybe someone is just like pumped up for the day, but you don't realize it's not just I'm excited, it is I'm anxious. And there's a big difference of being anxious for something or just excited, right? Loss of interest, their mood, loss of interest. And then that could be a plethora of things. That could be just loss of interest in the day, could be loss of interest in an event, or loss of interest in interacting with others. And I think those are all just huge red flags. Irritable. I mean, I know I've had days in my life where I've been irritable, right? Like this says mood. I've had that mood, I'm sure. But what if it's consistent?
Yeah, consistent.
What if for a week they are just, leave me alone. Guys, it can't, this is a warning sign. We've got to investigate a little bit more. Humiliation or shame. And when we think about the whole broad term of the scope of suicide, I think a lot of it has to do with shame. I cannot bear this feeling. I feel guilty. I'm ashamed of it. I feel like the world is judging me, and I don't like it. That's huge to me. I think that's a big time tale. Agitation and anger. And then you got to this last one. This is what reminded me of the conversation with Ms. Frankenunley. Relief or sudden improvement. Right? What if you've noticed for a month that someone's been going, we'll just say a roller coaster, ups and downs of emotion, and then gone.
Yep.
To me, before that conversation, I believe I would have thought that's a success. Like, oh, finally, he's back to normal. Good to have my brother back. But turns out we shouldn't stop asking the questions even then. Right? And so, huge big things, warning talk, warning behavior, warning moods. How do we respond to those? We listen. We listen when people talk. Matter of fact, listen, that's one of the things about marriage. Sometimes I'm thinking about what I need to say next in an argument, right? Like, oh, she's going to go there. Well, let me load up.
Right.
Turns out I need to listen more. Not just in that, but I mean, even with all my friends, I need to listen more. Quit thinking about what I need to say because I need to be right and I need to be the wise person. No, think about what they are saying. Process it, filter it through your brain and your heart so you can respond with love. So listen, warning behaviors, look, pay attention. Don't overlook. And it sounds simple, that's just a word, overlook, but truly look, focus. How are they acting? And then ask the question, I wonder why they're acting that way, right? So And then finally, mood. This is a time investment. This isn't just mood of the day. Think of it as a timeline. How long have they been acting this way? How long have they been feeling this way? And then again, ask the question, why? And so interesting. And so I was talking to you earlier, heard this song earlier. It was actually just a couple days ago on the radio. My son loves Marshmello.
Yeah.
And I think Carson likes Marshmello because he was on Fortnite. That was his introduction. Matter of fact, he dressed up like Marshmello for Halloween last year. But we kind of listened to Marshmello songs. Mostly the Kids Bop versions, which I actually learned there was a difference in the Kids Bop. That was a rude awakening to me. But there was one now, a Demi Lovato, called It's Okay Not to Be Okay. And of all the things that we've talked about today, guess what? It's okay to talk about self-harm. It's okay to feel hopeless. It's okay to have that feeling of no reason to live. It's okay to feel that you're a burden to others. It's okay to feel trapped. It's okay to think that you have unbearable pain. It's okay.
Right.
Matter of fact, I would say it's almost normal at some point. That's okay to have those conversations. It's okay for the behaviors. It's okay to have the moods, but guess what? It's not okay to stay there. And I love the words of the song. It's okay not to be okay. We're going to have seasons where we're not okay. And guess what? That's okay.
Yep.
Doesn't make you messy, doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make you broken. Matter of fact, it makes you normal, right? So let me ask you, Dalton, what would you say to someone right now that's like, you know what, I felt that way before. I think there's something wrong with me.
I would say that there's nothing wrong with you. Thinking that way and feeling that way aren't abnormal things. I feel like most people, if not everyone, has felt like that at some point in their life, whether it was after the death of a loved one or something else was going on in their life that made them think that way, feel that way. I would say that, just reach out to someone. Like I always say, it's better to talk about it from personal experience. I wish I would have talked about it more. It's way better to talk about it than to just keep it in. And I think it's important to remember that all these three signs are connected. To love someone, you have to listen and you have to look. And if they're exhibiting the warning talk and the warning behavior, more than likely they have one of the warning moods too.
Yeah.
I think it is really important to remember that they're all connected. And that you have to, you can't just look for one and then, because you might miss some of the other ones. If you're just looking for, they're not harming themselves, they're not cutting themselves, they're okay. But, they're pulling away, they quit basketball, or they quit going out to eat with all their friends like they used to. They quit playing video games as much. And then you see that, but then you see that they're not harming themselves, so you're like, they're fine.
At least it's not.
Yeah, at least it's not harming themselves, but in reality, they might be feeling like they want to harm themselves, but they're not, and then they decide that they're going to make the ultimate self-harm, which is not good.
Smart. That's smart. So it's okay not to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, it's okay to be messy. Like, let's go ahead and get rid of the idea that we're supposed to be perfect, because no one's been that way ever. It doesn't even exist. Let's be honest. Perfection doesn't exist. Let's just be okay. Like, and then when we're not, we learn it's okay not to be okay. But primarily, let's know that no matter where you are, you could be in the messiest of mess. You could be the muddiest person, or you could be crystal clean. But it doesn't matter. You're not alone. You don't have to walk through this alone. Maybe you've already been that messy person, and maybe you've walked through it, and now you're like, wow, I'm so thankful for the people who have loved me to where I am now. Because that's what it takes. It takes some people to kind of help you get out of the mud, dust you off, and be like, gosh, I love you just the way you are. You don't have to do anything incredibly spectacular to be important in this world. Just the way you are is more than enough. It takes some people that surround you to do that. And so here's what I want to do. We've got the rest of this month, right? We've already got some emails. We've got some messages. You've got some late night messages on Instagram already. Mm-hmm. We know that this matters. Do me a favor. We want to challenge you guys now. We've talked a lot. How about you share your story? for the rest of this month until the 30th of September, because this is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, would you share your story? And I don't care if that's writing it out, or maybe you would feel courageous enough to talk about it in a video. Post it. Get it out there, guys. Let's talk about this together. Do us a favor. Put it out there. I'm going to put the hashtag on the screen here. We just want you to hashtag not alone. Share it. Just say, you know what? It can be as simple as, I miss this person, not alone. And that's awesome. And we will I'll celebrate that. I really will. Anytime we participate in this, I think it's something that we should do together, and that you're not alone.
Right. And it doesn't have to be like my video, which was 20 minutes long, and it could just be something simple, like he said, I miss this person, and then that's the video.
Maybe you want to post their picture.
Right.
Maybe you just want to post the date. Right? It doesn't matter. But we've got to start talking about it. The more we talk about this, the better off we're going to be. Because I learn when he talks. He learns when you talk. When we watch these videos, we learn together. When Mrs. Nunnally talked to us the other day, I was like soaking it in. And here's the problem. We have usually felt uncomfortable because it's such a non-talked about topic. But we learn from each other. We get stronger from each other. And what if we continue to talk and we start having this influence that ripples out to the people who are contemplating it? Maybe they can learn from us. Maybe we can lean on them. Maybe we can put our arms around them and say, hey, let's talk about this together. Then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and even if you just, you want to type it out and you don't want really anyone to see it, or even just like typing out or making a video talking about it, you don't have to even post it.
Nope.
That always made me feel better.
Good point.
To just even talk to a camera or your phone, typing it, whatever. It always makes me feel better to do something like that. So I think even if you don't want to post it, you don't want to share it with the world, you could just do it and keep it to yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to go public. We love that.
Right.
And we don't think less of you, to be quite honest. But I do like to journal it. It's funny how we can process things differently when we even see it, right? Keep it for you. That can be just for you, and that's okay. But do us the favor. When you do that, you're processing emotions, right? You're like, I feel this way. That's really important. The way you feel about it really matters because your story matters. And so, man, I'm excited to see. If you want to share, we'll be honored. We'd be honored to hashtag not alone with your stories or your photos or whatever. But again, even if you don't go public, that's okay. Yep. Just try it for yourself, for your own growth. Well, listen, you know what? I'm excited, man. The first of next month, we've got another video coming out from another family locally who lost a very young man, a loved one in the community, an athlete in the community, and I'm looking forward to that. Guys, you're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned for October 1st when the next video comes out. But until then, join the story. Join the movement. Join this project. Share it out. Let's get it out there. Let's make sure that everybody that we know has the opportunity to hear that they are not alone and that they matter, and that no matter how they feel about this, that they're allowed to. Right? It's okay not to be okay. Yeah, I love that. That's so easy. My 8-year-old son goes, it makes sense. Yeah. I'm like, cool. Because I don't know if me talking to him made sense, but that made sense in that little song. And I think Demi Lovato used to be, what show was she on growing up? She was like on the Barney show or something, right? Yeah. And I'm like, man, that annoying Barney show just came back for my 8-year-old, even though he never watched Barney. I'm like, whew, glad that happened. Yeah. So cool. All right, guys, listen, we'll see you on October 1st. Until then, hashtag it not alone. Dalton, man, thanks for being here again. Looking forward to what this can do. Guys, we'll see you soon.
See you.